So how's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a pair of totally wireless earbuds, or in-ear monitors, however you want to call them, that I recently got off of Amazon for about $23 when they're on sale. They're a very generic brand as far as I can tell, because I've seen this model represented in several different listings under different names, so we're not going to actually name them in particular. This one does say Roman, but it's like the Roman Q5 or something, but it really doesn't matter because they are ultimately a generic kind of brand, right? So when you open up the case, what do you have? You have the two monitors themselves. I'm going to call them monitors. I think generally the more professional term is in-ear monitor, so we're going to stick with that. That gives you an idea, a bit of what they look like. So the really great thing about this is you're completely free of wires. This has sort of become more popular now that the iPhone 7, I think it is, actually doesn't have a headphone jack in it anymore. You know, Apple does like to push the boundaries. So in addition to those, we also have a little carrying bag. We also have additional adapters. I've tried these. I don't think they work, but that could just be because they don't fit my ears. We have the charging cable. So instead of having a little charging dock like some of the more expensive ones do, you actually have to plug each and every individual, or both of these individual in-ear monitors in when they run out of battery power. We also have a little warranty tag of some sort that was not filled in. It was stamped, so I'm not exactly sure what that means. We have an instruction manual in both, I believe, Chinese or Mandarin, as well as English. Overall, considering that I believe it's a translated manual, it read fairly well. I know sometimes these things can be, the translations can be a bit atrocious. Then we have a little, I'll get back to this a little bit later. It's a little bit questionable. This was a small bag that some accessories were in. I had already taken them out. And then we have the instructions stuck in the very bottom. On the back is Chinese, and on the front is English. It's useful because this information actually is not in the instruction manual. So you have to refer to this from time to time when pairing these and whatnot. So then this right here is an interesting concept, because what they're offering you, they're essentially bribing the person who bought this to give them a good review on Amazon, so that way they can potentially, or guaranteed, I'm not even sure if this is a drawing, it's a little bit vaguely worded, but it looks like they're in the drawing, or they're guaranteed some sort of wristband to hold your phone, or not wristband, or, you know, a shoulder band, whatever you want to call them. So the instructions say to get it, you need to write a review on Amazon within 14 days, email the review, I imagine, to this particular email address, and then provide the order number and armband size you prefer. So as you might or might not be aware, there was recently, well, this is probably a year ago now, a deal with Amazon and sort of sponsored reviews, like the top 100, top 500 Vine reviewers, or whatever they called them. And there was an issue with Amazon trusting these people, or the perceived trust that these people had, because they were getting products for free, the quote-unquote review. So one of the things that they wanted to do is get rid of that program, get rid of the idea of sort of sponsored reviews. So it looks like this is the latest idea on how to get, or how to give people products in return for good reviews. And I think this will come into play rather interesting later, because I have some critical things to say about these. So let's get back to the actual in-ear monitors themselves. Now overall, I'm not exactly sure how well you can see this against the backdrop. I think it's like the lighting here, you know, it's a phone camera and everything. So, you know, it looks like that. And if we look at it from this side, I think you get a good idea, pretty good idea of what it looks like, right? Maybe it's a little bit out of focus. So we have the microphones on the very bottom. So there's a little pinhole down here and here. Then we have a multifunction button on the face of it, or the side, however you want to look at that. This is a single function button. You press it and press and hold. And that's basically the only function it has. There's a little blue LED below it. There is also an indicator which one of these is left and which one is right. If you look down here, you can't see it probably. It's just too dark. But there is like a little left and a little right sticker or lettering on it, I guess you could say. Then you charge it right up here on top. Now these are particularly difficult to get in and out, especially if you don't have fingernails that are very long. And then once you do that, since these are standard micro USB, they need to be put in a certain orientation like that. And that's how both of them hook up to the USB power supply, obviously. And once you do that, it takes about 2 hours to charge them fully. I've seen them charged fully in as little as 1.5 hours, I'd say. And then you have to try to put this back in if you so desire. It's a little tab thing. I can kind of see it getting broken off, perhaps. And it's not the easiest thing to put in, but it gets the job done. So here's the thing, when you're buying stuff like this, it was really cheap, considering this is sort of groundbreaking technology at this point, where we're still seeing what works, right? There really aren't a whole lot of good options in the market, especially by well-established brands. Apple and their wireless earpods are probably the most established manufacturer of this audio accessory out there at the moment. I don't recall seeing any of the more reputable ones pushing them out. So at the moment, the affordable ones, they're cheap. They're really cheap. So let's talk a little bit about what I use them for. So I've been using these for about a week now, and I've been using them outside mostly, but I've also used them inside a little bit. Tried many different applications with them. So some of the things that I tested doing, one of the things was operating loud machinery with them in. So you might think about, maybe a lawnmower, stuff like that, sounds that exceed probably about 80 decibels. And I found that these were not as useful as my previous ones. If I'd say let's say as a number that I'm just going to throw out there, let's say my previous ones reduced the noise, the decibels, by about 20. I would say this was half of that. Which in my particular application made them unusable. So if I'm going to be using them around heavy machinery and I want to use these to reduce the amount of noise that can get in my ears while at the same time actually being able to listen to something, right? That's a useful application for me. Couldn't really do that with these. They just don't fit tight enough in your ears where they'll create a seal that's secure enough. Either that or it's the body itself. It creates too much of something like a resonance chamber that allows external noises to bounce around inside it. And I found it, like if I had my ear pointed directly at the source that the noise was coming from, let's say the noise was coming directly at it like this, it was, there's like something that rattles inside it, like the vibrations from that excessive noise, because we're talking about like noises that hit up to around 90 decibels. So it's pretty high. And no, these do not work for those kind of applications. They might work for smaller stuff. Like you think about loud motors, I think about maybe grass or string trimmers, stuff like that. But the bigger machinery, no, this is not going to work. This is not going to provide enough noise reduction, basically, to wear them comfortably for an extended period of time. In addition to this, I actually took them into the shower. So one of the things that I've kind of been intrigued with lately is not wasting any. I like to listen to stuff, listen to podcasts usually, stuff like that, YouTube videos in the background while I'm doing other stuff. That's one of the things I do. And they worked a lot better than my previous ones. My previous ones were wireless, but they actually had a cable connecting them, like so. Connecting one to the other, and they'd get in the way. The thing to note about these is they are not waterproof, so you're not going to be able to get them wet, but you can use them in high humidity environments without immediately breaking them. Like I have no idea how much longer they'll last doing this, but at the price, it's not a big deal if they do break, unless of course I have to go to the hospital with an ear injury after they explode. That would be bad. But anyway, And now we get sort of to the crux of the matter. And this has to do with the actual sound. And up until this point, I think I've been fairly positive. There have been a few nitpicks. The sound is garbage. It's utter garbage. I can't. I've sort of been cycling through in-ear monitors. Those are the earbuds, however you want to describe these things, that actually seal inside your ear, so you don't hear external noise. I've been going through these things since probably 2013. So I've gone through a few pairs now, like the old ones, the wired ones that were entirely wired. They last me about a year. So as you might imagine, I cycle through a lot of them. These are hands down the worst I've used so far. Granted, these are probably the cheapest I've used so far, but if you're going to be listening to music, these are unusable. I'm not an audio engineer or anything like that, but it sounds to me like there's some sort of mid-frequency that a lot of songs, they hit this frequency, and it causes like a little vibration inside it. And this is a very irritating kind of vibrating sound. It's the sound of a very tiny plastic speaker rattling. If you can imagine what that kind of noise would be like. It's a severe form of distortion, and it is something that I've never experienced in any of my previous in-ear monitors, and that includes the previous set of wireless ones that were connected with a wire to each other, but not to the audio source itself, right? I just don't know what to say about it. I can use them for audio, even audio. Like there are some voices that do not work very well with this, but in a lot of cases, I can be listening to podcasts. I can be listening to YouTube videos, for example, and it's not an issue, really. So they're useful for that. I would never recommend these for music. Spend more money. If you need completely wireless headphones or in-ear monitors, these are in-ear monitors, not headphones. If you need completely wireless in-ear monitors, you're going to have to look at something else, because these, I would never recommend them for music. And I doubt it's simply a manufacturing flaw, because both of them sound exactly the same. The odds that I'd get two duds, I think, in the same package, if one speaker was bad, I just don't see that being the case. I think it's just really bad quality design overall. And it comes down to the price. Like, I paid around $23 for these. They normally retail full price at about $40, United States dollars, of course. And overall, I think the price I paid was fair for them. I would never recommend you pay full price for them. I do not think they're worth that. There are currently more options, certainly coming out at about that price range now. Once again, they're not established brand names as far as I can tell, and you're going to have to take sort of a crapshoot with them. But I would, for $40, no way. This is not good enough. I'm sorry. So yeah, they're useful for listening to audio most of the time. I really do like the convenience of them being completely wireless. This does help a lot, especially in applications where you need to turn your head about quite a bit. It's useful, like I said, when you're in the shower, because you don't have a cable getting in the way. It's no good if you need to use them for isolating noise. If you are working in loud environments where sounds are an issue, they're no good for that. And the music is just, no, you can't use these to listen to music. I'm sorry to say. Okay, one other thing, a couple of other things. I didn't use these to make any calls. I don't get many calls, so I haven't actually tried to take any calls with them. I can't verify whether or not they're any good at doing that. The batteries, I would say, last about 3 hours based on how much I use them. You're given the warning as per usual when a battery is running out on it, and then after a couple of times it automatically turns off. So overall, I felt the battery life was pretty decent. What else is there? Yes, let's talk about these additional earpieces. They're fundamentally different in their design. I've tried putting them on. They do fit, but they're a very tight fit, so it was almost as if they were not designed for this particular model. And they do not stay very well in your ears because they're very shallow. Like, compared to these where they actually have a tip that inserts properly, these are something else entirely. They just sort of drop in. Maybe it's simply because my ear canal is too big, but they did not work for me. So that might be something you want to keep in mind as well. Overall, I am satisfied with the purchase. If I had to do it again, I'd probably look at something a little bit more expensive, because having a single-purpose headphone, or in-ear monitor, I should say, like this is a little bit limiting, because I sometimes switch between music and audio, or like talk. Okay, one other thing I was going to mention, that's what it was. You can use these separately, which is also a very handy feature. So when one battery wears out, because this is how the pairing works, is it one connects to the other, and then that one connects to your audio source. When one battery wears out, and it's going to be the one that connects to both this in-ear monitor as well as connects to your audio source, you can optionally unpair the second one from your now dead. Well, it's not dead. The battery's dead on it. Earphone, in-ear monitor, and then use it separately. And it will last for another 30 minutes, I'd say. It's a hassle, though, to do it, because then you have to set up the pairing again all over from the start. How the pairing system works is you press, when you first have them, you have to press and hold both of them. They'll pair together, and then they'll start looking for your audio source, and then you can pair it from there. Another thing that's really handy about having them separately like this is I can just use one. This is especially handy in situations where people are going to be talking to you and you don't want to be rude and completely shut them out and act like an imbecile. So it's handy for that, because that way you can still listen to stuff as well as listen to what's going on around you. So I find it particularly valuable for that as well. And I think the future overall looks quite bright for this sort of fully wireless in-ear monitor technology. I'm excited to see where it goes. At the moment, like I said, I would not really recommend these at all unless you have very specific tastes, such as just listening to podcast kind of content. But no, not for music. But I think it shows some very promising steps forward, and hopefully we'll see more and better manufacturers get on board. Manufacturers who actually have sort of a reputation within the audio industry for producing quality, even if it is a little bit more expensive, because a lot of these things, they're from China with generic branding. They're kickstarted, or they're from Apple, and Apple doesn't make in-ear monitors. They only make the ones that just sort of hook in, which means that they don't fully isolate you from the world around you, and that's actually something that I desire to have in my in-ear monitors. But yeah, hopefully within the next couple of years we'll see some really good ones come out, and then I'll probably upgrade to those, because I do like the technology. I do like the ability just to be completely free of the wires. It's nice not to have that wire just dragging around sort of on the back of your neck, right? But anyway, that's the Q5 wireless, whatever this thing was called. It's like I said, it's a generic brand. If you look here, if you read the back of this box, you can see it says Roman China, the creative joy and the life front runner, constantly brings users the simple feeling of fashion experience. The more you hear, the more happy and fashion you become. And then it says, join Roman China, fashion and happy world. So while they didn't drop the ball on the instruction manual itself, or that other little spec sheet reference thing, this here, the back of the box, that's some pretty atrocious English right there. I really don't know what to think of that. But yeah, this is just a generic brand thing. I think you get the idea. Those are my thoughts on it. Thank you very much for watching, as always, and I hope to see you next time.